and it's ran this way, and so these are kind of the building blocks, and we'll go from there and build up from new building blocks, okay? We'll still incorporate a lot of the algebra skills into it, but at first it's going to feel like it's not very much so math comparatively to what you know, because it's very different at the start. But like I said, we will end up integrating all those algebra skills that you guys spend a lot of time working on beforehand, okay? So today is really just going to be a lot of vocab, okay? Heads up. So we have these different terms when they go through today: points, lines, and planes. We have this chart we're going to fill out here, okay? So for a point, we draw it as a big dot and a capital letter. So that would be point P. That would be point P. A dot and then a capital letter, okay? So that's the model of it. That's the example of what it looks like. To draw it, it's drawn as a dot. Okay, that's how you draw it. You draw it as a dot. Okay, you guys have graphed points before, right, on the XY plane? Okay. We name it by a capital letter. It's important that's a capital letter. So we name it with a capital letter, okay? Only capital letters for these. We use lowercase letters for other things. So we have to reserve the capital letters for points. So if we were to put this in words or symbols, if we were to write this in a sentence, like graph point P at 4, 2, okay? You can either see that point P written in one of two ways. You can see it written in words as spelled out, point, and then the capital P. You can also see it in symbols. And the shorthand symbol for this is actually the same as the model. Okay? Some of these shorthand symbols are going to be different, but this one's actually the same, so it's just that dot P, point P. And a fact we know about this is there is no size or shape. There's no size or shape to a point. You might be like, well, Mr. Costle, it's circular, I can tell. Okay? And it's not that big, I can tell. Okay? So the size of the change. But actually, that's just how we represent it. But in reality, it doesn't have the size. Like 2 points, they don't like overlap or they don't touch each other. They don't take up any space in theory. Because a lot of geometry is kind of a little more theoretical in that way. So you can think of, if you look at this floor, for example, okay? If you look at the floor, okay? Any spot that you could poke a pencil into could be a point. So across this floor, there's infinitely many points. Okay? There's infinitely many points that you could poke your pencil into. Okay? So it's not like you can just like see, like, oh, I can poke my pencil right there. It's too small to see. There's actually no size to it. Okay? For a line, it's here's the model of it. So I drew a straight line with 2 arrows on each end, or an arrow on each end. A point, 2 points on the line, 1 point A with a capital letter, 1 point B with a capital letter, and then a lowercase m over here. And we're going to talk about why this is in a moment. So this is drawn with, W slash means with. You can write out with if you want though, but this is shorter. And arrowhead at, so you can write out at or put the at symbol, either is fine, each end. So we put an arrowhead on each end. I'm going to give you guys note-taking tips from time to time in here, okay? So like I said, like one of them is like W slash instead of with. It takes less time and it's shorter. Some people that would really bug, so write out the full word if you'd rather. If you want to shorten it, shorten it. If you'd rather do the at symbol and writing out at, it's a little bit shorter. Go ahead and do that. I'm all for abbreviating things and just making the note something that you can use. Because in reality, Am I going to need to use your notes? No, who's going to need to use your notes? You are. So as long as you know what you mean, that's what matters, okay? So if you can write this and know, oh, that means with, then feel free to use it. But if you would write that and you're like, I don't remember what that meant, then you need to write it down. We name a point, or we name a line by 2 points on the line. So we use 2 points on the line. Or we use a lowercase letter. We do 2 points on the line or a lowercase letter. If I were to put that in words, like in a sentence, I could say, write out the word line, and I'd put capital A, capital B. And so I named it by 2 points on the line, because A and B are both points on the line. They have to be capital, so that way we know there are points. You might be asking, Mr. Cossel, do I have to put A before B? Does it matter? And I'd say, no, you don't. The order doesn't matter. We can do line BA. Okay. And then you can also say, like I said, the lowercase letter there, line lowercase m. So because it's a lowercase letter, we just know that it's a line. Versus the capital letter, we know it means it to be a point. If I were to do symbols for these, we have shorthand symbols for these. So if you don't want to write out the word line for a line AB, you can do capital letter A, capital letter B, and then draw kind of a mini line above it with the arrows. So it's kind of like you draw a mini line above it. And so you would read this the same way as line AB. And just save some time writing it, and some space. Same thing if it were to be line BA, and you just do a mini arrowhead over the top. Thank you, Jacob. Yep. Or with line M, the lowercase m, with a mini line over the top. Now we say, oh, that's line M. So left to right, the same thing. Line AB, line AB. Mean the same thing. We have 2 facts we know here, 2 facts we know here. This has no height or width. Okay. So you can't have one line being wider than another line. We don't have a width. Or you can't have a line being taller than another line, like it's really thick. Okay? I don't care how many C's you want to put on there. They don't have a height. Okay. The other one is that it's infinitely long. Lines are infinitely long. That's what those arrowheads are for. They just signify it goes on forever in those directions, because we can't actually draw that it goes forever, because you'd run out of room and paper and time. But we put those arrows just to say it continues. But technically, don't draw this, but technically, it continues going. And it keeps going all the way through the 2nd floor. And same thing the other direction, it keeps going as well, all the way through, down through the floor and into the earth. It just keeps going forever. But like I said, that gets really messy really fast, so we just do these arrows to show that, okay? Questions on that? I know it's a lot of definitions early, isn't it? Probably. Okay. How you doing? Okay. So next is a plane. It's not like an airplane, okay? But it is a slanted 4-sided figure we're going to draw. So it's a 4-sided figure, but it's going to be slanted, okay? And I'm going to put 3 points in this plane. So just like we had 2 points on the line, I'm going to put 3 points in this plane. I'm going to put point X, point Y, and point Z in my plane. And where they are does not matter, okay? We're going to leave the bottom right corner clear for a second, but where they are doesn't really matter. But they are capital letters because they're points. And then I'm going to do a special little R there in the bottom right-hand corner. It's called a script letter. It's called a script letter. I'm going to do my normal R, and then I'm going to add a couple like tails to it, okay? And we'll talk about Y in a moment for that. So I did point X, point Y, and point Z, and then I have this script R. It's not a point though, because I didn't draw a point symbol for it. Okay, so it's just this little R with a couple of tails behind it to make it look fancy. And I'll talk about Y in a moment for that. So this one is drawn as a slanted four-sided figure, and it has to be slanted, because otherwise we think it's a different thing later in geometry. And then we can name this in two different ways. We can name these in two different ways. So we can name it by any 3 points. But these points can't be on the same line. They can't be on the same line. Okay, so any 3 points that are not on the same line. So as you can see, like X, Y, and Z, you can draw one line through all three of them. You can also use a script capital letter. A script capital letter. So just like before, we'll do some examples of that in the next column, next row. So we could do plane, and 3 points we have on this plane that are not in the same line. Capital X, capital Y, capital Z. The order does not matter. Order does not matter. So just like with the line, you can flip those around. You can put those 3 points in any order. That's still the same plane. Or you could do the script capital letter. So plane, and then do that kind of fancy R there. Okay? We'll use that one a lot less often than the 3 points. The 3 points is much more common. Okay. Aiden.
Is R the only one that can be scripted?
Is R the one that can be scripted? No, you can script any letter. It's just a lot less common. So we'll kind of talk about them as we do them. Just because there's a uniform way they're done. So we'll just kind of talk about a couple letters as we do them, but we won't do many. Yeah, that's a good question. So facts we know about them, we know three facts here. So there's no height or width. There's no height or width, just like a line. So this is infinitely long as well. And it's a flat surface. So there's no height or width, infinitely long, and it's a flat surface. Now, a good way to think about these, is the plane could be like the floor. Okay? The plane could be like the floor. The floor is flat, okay? And it would go, it doesn't really have a height to it or a width to it. Now, the floor, if it were to be a plane, would go infinitely long in all directions. So it wouldn't just be like left and right, it'd go this way too infinitely long. It just spreads out forever, okay? And now inside the plane, you have these other things, okay? You might have heard the XY coordinates, called an XY coordinate plane, okay? Because those lines and points exist inside the plane, okay? So inside this floor plane, okay, we have all these little tiny points, and you guys can see lines on the floor, can't you? Okay, so those lines exist in the plane, they exist on the floor there, okay? Or you can think of the wall. This might be a good wall to look at here. We have all these lines that keep running across the wall, but the wall would go forever, and the lines would go forever if it were to be a true line in a true plane. You have all these tiny little points across the wall. Okay, hopefully that helps make it a little more sense. As it's just going to take time for us to continue working with them for it to make more sense because these are new definitions to us. Any questions on the table before we go to write below the table? Alrighty, Gucci. So, points, lines, and planes are considered undefined. They're considered undefined. You've heard me a lot saying how it has no height or width, or doesn't have a shape or size. Okay, that's what it kind of means by undefined. There, it doesn't have a defined measurements. Okay, so the measurements are not defined. Okay, and then another thing with that is that these are our building blocks. Okay, so these are some of the first things we're learning because they're building blocks for the rest of geometry. So we're going to take these things as well as others that we're going to learn later, and we're going to build up everything off of that. Okay, we're going to say, okay, based upon these things we know, we can now prove these other things. We can say these other things exist. So, as an example, if we were to draw a line JK, I guess now that I'm looking at that, that's a little redundant. Because it says line JK really. Making myself change that. So can anyone help me on how we would draw this by chance? Okay, Aiden, what are you thinking?
Well, you would draw the line with the two arrowheads.
Okay, line with two arrowheads.
And then put 2 points on it, and one J and one other one K.
Yeah, very good. We draw a line with two arrowheads. We have a line. 2 points on it, and name one J and one K. And it does not matter which point's which. And it doesn't matter which way this line's going. I drew it slanted. You could draw the line straight. You could draw it slanted the other direction. You can draw it straight up and down. It really doesn't matter. You can draw any of those. You don't need all of those, just one example. Okay? Once again, where J and K are doesn't matter because the order doesn't matter for this. Questions on that? Okay. Draw plane JKM. Also name this plane B. Okay? Yeah.
So any plane can be scripted in any letter?
Yep. Yeah, so any letter can be scripted. Yeah.
Okay.
So this one happens to be plane B in the script. Yeah. Can anyone help me draw this plane? Or tell me what I might do for that? Okay, Aiden.
Draw a slanted four-sided figure.
Yep, we'll start off by drawing a slanted four-sided figure. And is mine perfect? No, that's okay. We're not art majors right now. Okay, some of you might be very good at art and passionate about it. It's not a skill of mine, and so it's okay to me that it's not perfect. Okay, now can anyone help me on what I would do next? So I have this slanted four-sided figure. What do I know is going to be in this four-sided figure? Okay, Gage.
J, K, and M.
Yeah, J, K, M. Does it matter where they are? Nope, it doesn't. I'm just going to put them here. Call this J, call this K, call this M. Now I need one more thing to write on this plane. What else do I need to write here?
B.
Okay, I need to write B, okay? I'm going to put that in the lower right-hand corner. We always put our script letter in the lower right-hand corner, okay? It just makes it very common and universal, so that way we always know which one it is, and we don't accidentally confuse it for a point, okay? We don't want to confuse it for a point. Any questions on this? Yeah, Gage.
Do we script B?
Yes, B is scripted, so it has a little like tail at the end there. Great question. Yeah. Yep. Alrighty. So we're gonna flip the page. We're gonna go a little bit farther, okay? And then we're gonna watch a video. Okay, we're gonna watch a video. It's not related to math at all. It's just a video I really like, and I think it's funny. I like to quote it a lot. So we now have these terms called, and these are some more. These are going to be some more terms that are defined now, rather than necessarily undefined. So we start off with the line segment. A line segment could look something like this. Notice it's a little bit different than a line. It's a little bit different than a line. Okay. We're going just a little bit farther because we're saving us some time next time. Giving us some more time next time when we have the assignment. So this one is drawn, instead of with arrowhead HN, it's drawn with endpoints. It's drawn with endpoints. I'm going to do the at symbol here, at each end. So this is like somebody took just part of a line, okay? So you just cut off part of a line at 2 points, and it's called a line segment. It's a segment of the line, okay? So this one's named by 2 points, and that's it. We never do lowercase letters for these. Lowercase letters only for a line, not even a line segment. So in words or symbols, you could say line segment or just segment. You could say line segment or just segment. And then we would use the 2 points, C, D. We would use the ends of the line. So they have to be the end points that you name it by. And you could also have the other order. You could have segment D, C. But it has to be the end points. If we were to do symbols, we would do the capital C, capital D, and we would draw a mini line segment over it. So it's a straight line, no arrowheads. Same thing with segment DC. Just do a mini line segment over that. A fact we know about this, and we only know one, we're only the right one. It contains all points. Contains all the points between the endpoints. So it contains all the points between the endpoints. So this line segment would go from C to D, and it contains every single point between them, which is infinitely many. And we're going to end off there, so we can watch the video. You guys can go ahead and put those notes away. Okay. And then afterwards, we're going to go over how we're going to clean, which those that were here before know, but those that weren't don't. Oops.